job.
Yep, that's right.
Super Bowl champ Greg Jennings joining us now. We're talking Packers. The latest report out of Lambeau says GM Brian Gutekunst is holding firm to the stance that he will not trade Aaron Rodgers. It has been over a month since we heard Rodgers didn't want to return to the team. Still no movement. Peter King has an idea where Rodgers might be this season, and it's not anywhere near a football field. Take a listen.
What happens between now and July 15th? Let's just say, if Jeopardy says, Aaron, we want you to be the host for our next season, for our 21-22 season, but we want you here exclusively. I mean, the condition of the job is you got to be here. I won't be shocked if Aaron Rodgers takes a year off from football. Now, and then we'll see what happens in the future.
All right, Greg Jennings, what is your reaction to Peter King saying Rodgers might take a year off from football?
Yeah, I love Peter King, and he does a great job. And I think for this one, though, that's a huge and ginormous if. And you just can't weigh everything on an if when you're talking about the MVP of the National Football League. And so I think what Brian Gutekunst and the Green Bay Packers are doing is the right thing. You gotta call the bluff of Aaron Rodgers. You gotta hold on to him. You do not let him go, period. I get it. It's disgruntled. It's tension, but you figure it out somehow. And the only time you see him on the football field and the only uniform you see him in next season, if he decides to play, is the Green Bay Packer uniform. Now, let's get into if he takes a year off. Aaron Rodgers is 37 years old. His entire reason for continuing to play and wanting to play, if it even is in Green Bay, is to win championships. The window doesn't open up in your latter years. Typically, that we don't see that unless you're Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers isn't Tom Brady. And so when we look at that, his best option to win and win now is with the Green Bay Packers with that current roster. And so I just don't see him at 37 years old saying, you know what, I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to, if Jeopardy calls me and offers me the gig, I will do that. And then I might consider coming back a year later, losing all the leverage. I'm no longer league MVP. No one has seen me play within a year. I just don't see that happening at this stage in his career.
Well, Greg, with everything we've heard about Aaron Rodgers and how he deals with conflict, I don't think it's far off. I mean, you talked about this, what was it, a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, about if you get on his bad side, if you cross the line, it's almost impossible for you to get back in good graces with Aaron Rodgers. Right now, there's a standoff. They should be able to sit at the table and come to a solution and navigate through this situation, get on the same page. In any industry, in any relationship, but they can't. And you got to look at the egos involved. So I can see this playing out. It doesn't make much sense to me because of everything that you said, Greg, with his age and even the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, I feel like they've wasted his career because they should have more than one Super Bowl, but they're still in position to contend. So it makes sense for him to figure this out and come back. But Aaron Rodgers is dug in. Aaron Rodgers said that he doesn't want to be there. Aaron Rodgers said it's about the people. If it's an uncomfortable work environment for him, he needs to double down on what he believes in, get uncomfortable, and get out of there. Like we saw James Harden do it in Houston. We've seen other players do it. He has the leverage. He has the power to do it, but he has to be willing to get uncomfortable. He has to be willing to have thrones thrown at his house. He has to be willing for us to have these conversations and start breaking down, things outside of football. Now, I don't know if he's going to do that. He stood up there last week, 2 weeks ago, and he said, here's what I'm dealing with. Here's what's going on. So that was a step forward. So, wow, I want to see what Aaron Rodgers is willing to do. At one point, when he had James Jones go out there and speak for him, it's like, he's a little uncomfortable. And then a week ago or 2 weeks ago when he stood up on ESPN and he shared his part of it really quickly, it was like, oh, maybe he is willing to be uncomfortable and get out of there. So we will see.
Yeah, I thought there was the opportunity to tell Kenny Mayne,
hey, Kenny, just like you're moving on, I'm looking to move on too. And the fact that he didn't say that makes me think that he'll end up being in a Green Bay Packers uniform, Greg. And quickly on Jeopardy, although it's nice and he did a nice little job and he had some like lovely, very professional looking suits, I would be quite shocked if Jeopardy, who is looking to find a long-term host, decided to hand the reins over to Aaron Rodgers for 1 year and then have him go back to football. I think Jeopardy is looking for a long-term solution, so I just don't think that makes a ton of sense. However, Greg, if he were to retire a la Andrew Luck, a la Tony Romo, I think the market for him when he came back would still be super hot. Like, I'm still clicking on, does Andrew Luck want to come to the Patriot stories to this day? If anyone wants some clicks out there from your old buddy Kevin Wildes, you can put that headline up there right now. I just think that there's no matter, he's so good that maybe a year off, there would still be, you know, a fever pitch to get him back on the field. Do I think he actually does it? No, because he also played last year with Jordan Love there, and I don't see what really changed. So I expect him to be back in Green Bay, and I don't see a ton of benefit from him sitting out.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think there would definitely be interest if he did sit out for a year and decided to come back. But let's just be real. Let's be real. Aaron Rodgers is 37 years old, and we're saying if he goes to or if Jeopardy says, hey, Aaron Rodgers, come on, let's be our host for a year, like you said. That's a huge if. That's Aaron Rodgers banking on that as well. He's not certain of that. That's him banking on that and hoping that this is a play that he has in his back pocket. Where right now, Brandon, you talk about Aaron Rodgers and the relationship and the riff and all of that, and it can be a potential option for him. I completely disagree. I don't think that he's really wanting to do that. I think he has great interest in Jeopardy if they say you're going to be our long-term host. But now he's at a crossroads because he still does want to play football. It's evident. He did not say, and you said he needs to get uncomfortable. Aaron Rodgers has to say, I want out. I want to be traded. If he then starts to speak that way, I think the roles change. I think the Packers have a great, big, huge decision to make and try to make something happen and get some real estate, get some assets for Aaron Rodgers right now and make that happen. If he does not say that, if he doesn't come out of his own mouth and say what we all felt like he had the opportunity to say a week or a week and a half ago, then he remains a Green Bay Packer, and he's not going anywhere.
Right. Makes sense. It's a good point, Greg. We'll take a turn. Nick's got some NBA playoff medals to hand out. Could Ja get one? Went 23-12 last night in Game 4, but the Grizzlies lost. And as it turns out, Ja did not get one. But Nick, who did make your playoff podium? I was asking to answer my own question.
Yeah, Ja almost got one. I actually wanted to give the gold to Greg's beard, which looks the best I've ever seen any beard on any man look. Credit to you, Greg Jennings, but they told me I'm not allowed, so here are the medals. Bronze medal, Russ. More on Russ in a moment. This is the most bizarre stat line I've ever seen in my life covering basketball. 19, 21, and 14 on 3 of 19 from the field. More on him in a second. Silver medal, Rui Hachimura. How about him? He gets a bronze, or silver, pardon me, 20 and 13.